There are wounds no one can see, scars that do not form on the skin, but in the silence of the heart. Childhood, the moment where everything begins, where the world takes shape, where love becomes the first compass of life. But for some, that world was built without warmth, without listening, without echo. No one screamed at them, no one hit them. They were simply never seen. An emotionally neglected child doesn't always know they were hurt. They grow up in an environment where physical needs are met but emotional needs are ignored. They are fed, taught to walk but never taught to feel. Their emotions become strangers, enemies they learn to hide very early. When they cry, they are told to stop. When they are afraid, they are mocked. When they seek comfort, they are sent back into solitude. So they understand that fragility is forbidden. They learn to smile even when they hurt, to say they are fine even when everything inside is breaking. Over time, this child develops a silent way of surviving. They become observant, attentive, almost invisible. They adapt to everything so as not to disturb. They believe that to be loved, they must be perfect. And they grow up with an immense gap between what they feel and what they show. But that emptiness never disappears. It transforms. It becomes fatigue, anxiety, over-adaptation. It becomes that inner voice constantly whispering, "You are not enough. You must do more. You must prove your worth to deserve to exist." The emotionally neglected child often becomes a highly functioning adult, someone who succeeds, who helps others, who seems strong and stable. But inside, they are still searching for what they never received. True recognition, presence, unconditional love. They learn to listen to others, but no one ever listened to them. They learn to give without ever knowing how to receive. And in every relationship, they unconsciously replay their past. They attract people who don't see them, who don't hear them, because they don't know how to be seen. Because deep down, they don't believe they matter. This type of neglect doesn't need shouting or violence. All it takes is an emotionally absent parent, a father who never speaks, a mother who does everything but no longer feels anything, or a family that values performance instead of tenderness. The words are missing, the gaze is missing, and the child grows up in a house full of things but empty of warmth. They become experts at guessing other people's emotions, yet incapable of understanding their own. They become peacemakers, those who calm every storm, because they have always feared noise. They run from conflict but carry chaos within. In adulthood, this invisible wound shapes everything. Friendships, love, work. They overinvest to fill a void they cannot name. They give more than they can, then collapse. They attach to distant, emotionally cold people, because that is what feels familiar, because that is what they know. But one day, the body begins to speak. Through anxiety, exhaustion, quiet depression, the adult starts to realize something is wrong, that they are tired of carrying everything without knowing why. And so the search begins, often leading to a painful truth. It's not what they received that broke them, it's what they never got. Healing from this wound means learning to feel again, accepting vulnerability as strength rather than weakness, allowing the inner child to finally cry the tears they never could. It is not a quick process. It is slow, intimate, sometimes painful, but it is also deeply liberating. Because behind that hidden pain lives a profoundly sensitive being, someone who survived silence, someone who learned to live without love and who, despite everything, still knows how to love. Healing begins the day we look at ourselves with kindness, the day we stop trying to earn what we should have always received freely. Recognizing this neglect is not about blaming. It is about understanding. Understanding that emotionally absent parents are often wounded children themselves, that they never learned to give what they never received, and that this cycle only breaks through awareness. In that awareness, real freedom is born. When we stop seeking love in the eyes of others and find it within our own. When we realize that our worth never depended on anyone's attention, but on our ability to see ourselves as we truly are. The emotionally neglected child doesn't need to be fixed. They need to be heard. They need to be understood. And above all, they need to learn to give themselves what no one else gave them. That is how rebirth begins, not by erasing the past, but by facing it. By understanding that nothing was wrong with that child. Nothing was broken, nothing shameful, only a need for love that was never answered. And when this wound begins to heal, something shifts. The inner silence turns into peace, fear becomes strength, and loneliness becomes presence. The hidden pain is no longer a curse. It becomes a light, the light that illuminates the path to self-knowledge, and reminds us all that true wealth never comes from what we own, but from the capacity to love without losing ourselves.